Okay, this is Sally Jacobs, archivist for the McCormick International Harvester Collection at the Wisconsin Historical Society. Today is June 16th, 2016. I am at the Red Power Roundup at the Racine County Fairgrounds, and I'm sitting with Kelley Wegman, who's going to tell us a little bit about her experiences with shows in the past. So, Kelley, is this the first time you've been to a roundup?
No. I've been several.
So, I understand that you've got some pretty good stories to tell.
Yes, I do. I'm from Canyon, Texas, and every 4th of July we have this little parade kind of going down the main street of town, and so my dad always put me in there. From when I was about 12, I think, can't remember how old I was, but I always had my Cub, my 1953 Farmall Cub. That's been my tractor since the day my dad brought it home.
You are a lucky girl. I just want to step aside and say that flat out. Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
I am. So we were going down. It was one of my first parades, and I was the Cub's clutch is really touchy. So, in third gear, when you get it there, it shuts off really easy. So you have to go off really slow. And so the year I did this parade with my Cub, we were in front of dancers. Okay, so they had to stop every so often to do their dance routine. So there was a lot of stopping. I was in trouble. I popped the clutch all the time. That was always my number one weakness. So, I'm going along and stop. We're waiting. And so we're finally going. So I'm letting off the clutch, and there it dies.
Oh.
Man, dang it, I did this, Papa, don't look at me. My dad's kind of like, what are you doing, Kelley? You know better. And so, I'm really trying to, start this up, and, I'm keeps going off, and I just keep killing it. And so I finally get started off and finally getting going, and you should have heard the crowd. They were just cheering me on. And, oh, goodness, I was in trouble. So we're going along. I did it again again and again. And so the last time I really did it, and it took, I think, 3 or 4 times before I got it started up and going. And then my tractor shut down.
Oh, dear.
I couldn't get started up. Nothing was happening. And, if you held the choke out, it would go. So my dad and I swapped tractors really quick. I went on a Ford, the year is 55, I forget what model it was.
Yeah.
And so as we're driving back to our trailer, Papa's bending down, holding the choke open.
Keeping it open.
And I'm driving this forward. I'm like, something stinks a little bit. And this thing is splashing out oil like crazy.
Oh.
And I'm like, really? So we get there, and, we get them on the trailer. Fine, great, whatever. And my dad turns to me, he's like, what was that? He says it was the tractor. They didn't know it wasn't the tractor, it was the operator.
Oh.
I was in trouble. He made me drive a lot that next year,
Really?
practicing on my clutch and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was.
But now it's not your weakness anymore, is it?
Some are a little touchy.
Well, that's not you. That's the machine.
I like them to think.
So, how old were you when you got your Cub? Is that the first tractor you ever drove?
No.
Yeah.
The first tractor I drove was a 1947 H, and it was a yellow H.
Ooh.
Yes. I was in the 4th grade when I did that one, and the one I really learned how to drive on was a Ford. So that's what I learned how to do.
Yeah. So do you ever fix it, troubleshoot? Are there things that you can repair on it too, or?
I'm just now starting to learn how to repair tractors. That's kind of a different story as to driving them and breaking them.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know, but I mean, it's intriguing. I like the idea, right? That you can fix it up. So, you have more tractor parade stories?
I do have another one. So about a year ago, I was 16, and it was the 4th of July parade. My dad and I cleaned up our 2 tractors, a Super H, forget which year, and then again my Cub. And we get there and we're just talking, and the year before we had a little tractor trouble with one shutting down, so we're like, fingers crossed, nothing happened, right? So last minute my dad's like, let's put a chain on the tractor just in case, let's play it safe. So, we wrap it around a seat. We're going. Everything's good. This year we're doing side-by-side tractors. So I'm right by my dad.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And all of a sudden, I'm just waving, and I hear the tractor kind of singing. It's just...
Yeah.
I look over, and I'm like, that's not supposed to happen. And then it just shuts down.
Oh.
And it won't start back up.
Heartache.
So, I pull my Cub out in front of there. I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I pull tractors all the time at the farm. Nothing big. But I'm a little Cub with a Super H.
That's just so funny.
Oh goodness.
That could be a painting.
we're in a little bit of a bind, but we can do this. So we hook up the tractors, and the Cub can pull it. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Well, that third gear is a little touchy, and so I was going pretty good. I was letting out on the clutch pretty good. But then when it felt that weight behind it, it shut off. And so, I started back up. I finally got it going. And, I finally got the clutch, released, and everything was straight, and I didn't pop him off. I always have a tendency to forget about the chain behind me.
Yeah.
Because when you're pulling, you want to tighten your chain and then go.
Right.
So I didn't do that, and that was good. I was clear, and how the crowd just cheered. They were like, yay! And they were really loud.
It must have looked really great, like theater.
Anyway, so I'm pulling along, and I know a lot of people in Canyon. That's the place I go to school at, and I know just a lot of people.
Sure.
So I'm going along because we only got about a third through the parade. My friend Jane sees me, and she's like, "Are you really pulling him?" I'm like, yeah, I am. And then a mechanic that we use, he's like, if that was John Deere, that wouldn't happen.
Oh, snap.
Oh, gosh.
You trying to start a fight?
And that was towards the end, we get all these people pointing, and they're like, ooh, look at that, what that one's doing. Like, oh, gosh. I get claps and looks everywhere. It's all good. And we get to the end, and, officers directing traffic us where you should go, and he stops my dad. So, and he's like, you're wearing a Farmall mechanic shirt. That really shouldn't have happened.
Always a comment. I love it.
And he's like,
it's a time thing.
Yeah,
Parade starts, you gotta go.
Well, at first we thought it was the carburetor, because it's always the carburetor, right?
But it wasn't.
It was the coil.
Oh. Well, now you know.
Yeah, it took us a while, but, we were like, okay, we're going to drop this off at a grain elevator and then just drive the Cub back, get our trailer, So we dropped it off the Super H at the elevator, and we're going back across town to the trailer.
Yeah.
My Cub shuts down. It's exhausted.
Oh, of course.
So, we're just like, oh, crap, we're screwed.
What did you hitch? What did you do?
No, it started right back up. We're like, oh, gosh. So we went really slow through town.
Taking it slow, right?
We finally got to our
Because you're
our
both
trailer.
on the Cub, right?
Yes,
There's
we're
two
both
of you.
on. Yeah, which
is also kind of funny to think about.
Yeah, and so then we finally get to the trailer. We get my Cub all loaded up, and that's fine. And there's really no one else there from the Tractor Society, because we took so long getting back.
Because you went too slow.
So we finally, we got back to the grain elevator, and we're like, okay, we have a winch on this trailer. If it doesn't start up, we can always winch it on, right? It starts right up. Really, all through the whole parade, you didn't start up.
That's gremlins. Like, there's no other way to explain that. That's just...
So, we put it on there and just get it off, and Papa just kind of shakes his head. He's like, I was put in a very humble position today.
Nice. That's a great attitude about it. Sometimes the universe just...
My Cub, it was angry. We put it in the barn, and I did not start it up for a whole month.
You just let it rest, or you could just tell it was radiating anger towards you?
I was letting it rest. I was not going to take my chances of starting it up and shutting down again, But when I started up a month later, actually, it was right after we did this big road trip, and, I was just kind of tired of being in the vehicle.
Yeah.
It was pretty interesting road trip, I'll tell you that. And I just drove that one for a couple hours, and it was nice to get back on my tractor.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So that's going to be your tractor forever, isn't it? That's kind of the feeling I get.
Yeah, that's my tractor. It's been mine since I was about 8 years old.
That's incredible. Right.
Yeah.
See, it's awesome that you're learning how to fix it. And then you're going to have to learn how to 3D print parts maybe in the future, right?
Hey, you never know.
All right, Kelley, this was marvelous. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I love it.